Guys, this is Brad from Blue Nile Farm. Welcome to the channel. Today I want to talk about the Danuser Intimidator. I've owned this thing for about 10 years, and I'll tell you, it is one of the best tools and best investments I've ever made when it comes down to clearing brush in small trees. And it's one thing that if you own a skid steer, you definitely need something like this in your arsenal because it'll make your life so much easier. So stay tuned and let me show you what it can really do in a real life situation. Hey guys, let me go over this Danuser Intimidator. First off, I want you to know that I am not representing Danuser in any way, shape, and form because I'm just a Danuser Intimidator user. I've used this thing for 10 years. It's done an awesome job for me, and I'm finally highlighting it on my YouTube channel. Um, I've used this for many, many years, and it started off as land clearing, and I've had this before I even started um, owning a skid steer. And what I used it for, I had a 55 LS tractor, 55 horsepower LS tractor, and I bought this Danuser Intimidator to clear a property that my dad owned that was basically left fallow. And I was able to utilize this and clear off a lot of big trees that were probably that big in circumference to a lot of brush utilizing that tool. But it had its hindrance with the tractor because you can't see, you don't have the breakout force, but it was able to do the job and I was pretty happy with it. When I bought this SLV90 skid steer, it changed my world completely because now I had a very efficient tool that I could see what I was doing. I could maneuver it real well, had great breakout force. I was able to remove big trees and objects and move them around like they're nothing. And I find that this was a fast, efficient way to do land clearing. And I utilize it a lot for brush clearing because brush is what I try to target are small trees. And then if I need to get into bigger trees, then I'll bring in an excavator. But when it comes down to utilizing this tool, it's made me a lot of money and it's been very efficient. And that's the name of the game. And since I'm into farming, I really like when I clear ground to not leave roots and stumps in the ground because a lot of people want to till the ground. And right now I'm at a friend's house and she's going to make this into a garden, and she hired me to come in and do a lot of land clearing, and we're taking out tons and tons and tons of brush on a short little field. But it spent 3 days. All I did is pull brush, and I'm going to kind of show you what I've gotten accomplished with this tool. But this is a good little tool. The cost of a Danuser Intimidator is about $4,500, and it's very cheap in comparison to a lot of other pieces of equipment that are on the market, especially land clearing devices. And I've owned this thing, like I said, for 10 years. It's taken a beating, and it works awesome. I've only broke maybe a line, and other than that, it's been working good. And let me kind of show you what you have here, just to kind of go over it. Because again, this is not a sales pitch, but everything that's on this is there for a reason. So they have these teeth in the front, same thing you would have on a bucket of an excavator. And these teeth are great for grubbing, and you can get into a tree and you can start grubbing around that tree and be able to kind of get underneath it. So that's what those teeth are for. On the outside here, you have serrated teeth. What's nice is when they start to go into the ground, they actually will cut roots as they saw in and out. The teeth on the inside here, from here to here, more in the front, are very serrated, and they kind of tie in together like saw teeth, and they go in together. So when you clamp, you have a high degree of clamping force. Up here, it's more round, where if you get around a tree, you're getting closer to your base. You can pull that tree right out, being wrapped up here, a fence post. Then you have this in front here that has a protection to kind of, you can get up right up to a tree or right up to a brush and kind of push that brush forward so it's not falling back into the cab. That's it. And then the only other thing that you need to be concerned with inside here is there's 2 grease zerks. That's it. It's a very simple unit. It works based on thumb pressure, at least on my Kubota, to open and close. And it's very efficient. And I think it really shines on machines that are about 90 to 100 horsepower when we're talking skid steers. On a tractor, it's hard because you don't have the breakout force and the maneuverability, but it will work. But when it comes down to skid steers, the bigger the skid steer, the better, in my opinion. You can still get by with 60, 70 horsepower skid steers, but you just understand it might take you a little bit more work to get your bushes and trees out of the ground. It might not give you as much force as you do with a bigger machine. But believe me, this thing is well worth it. And if you ever watch Danuser Intimidators in action, or a lot of these companies that model machines that are similar, they don't show you on the smaller machines. Everything's bigger, 100 horse, 90 horse machine, because that's where this thing shines at. And I kind of have to agree that if you want to get your most bang for your dollar, you want to have a bigger machine for this. So, but other than that, I've had really good luck with this, and I kind of want to show you what it can do, because that's what the name of the game is. What can this machine do? So stick with me on this video, and I'm going to show you real life action of what we've done with this machine. You guys, the following few shots are designed to show you how the Danuser Intimidator works in dealing with brush and some trees. So I don't want to kind of dull you with just showing it over and over again, because it's a very repetitive process. But you'll get the gist kind of how this thing actually works, and that's what I really want to show you in this video. Alright guys, let me show you how easy this is. Pretty much, what's nice with the skid steer is you can see what you're looking at. You just got to look up, go underneath the ground, get under it, and rip it up at the root. And what's nice is you can drop everything and make it into a nice neat pile that you want to get to. Come in, grab it by the ball, pick it up, give it a shake. And there it takes care of the dirt. Now I have basically all wood product, and if I want to burn it, it's not going to be a problem. If you had a tractor and this was hooked up, you could easily do the same thing, but the problem is, one, you can't really see what you're doing because of, it being more out in front of you. Number two, you got more shake with these because you have a lot more control. You're a lot freer as far as hydraulics, at least this skid steer does. And it may take a little longer than mowing. Look at all this roots. Most people don't have big farm equipment. They're able to go in the ground and flip over roots and pull them out of the ground. And all these little root balls are everywhere. Even the little trees. I mean, the more I can pull out, the better. Tell you what, when you get these little pricker bushes like this, they just gotta go. So a lot of times when I do land clearing jobs, I use this Intimidator. I rip material out, put it in small piles. Okay, I bring my grapple down, pick these piles up. But if you don't make them too thick, you can just use the Intimidator and grab them and create piles. I didn't get the root on that one. You want to go low with this. The lower you are, the better. And a lot of times, you can pick them up out of the ground or rip them out. You can even grub them. What I mean by grub them is basically just kind of pick at them with the front, break the dirt so you can get to the root like this. I think a lot of times when people do land clearing, they want a quick, easy way out. But to me, if you can do this, rip out the roots, make it simple, it'll be easier. Like I said, most people don't have big enough equipment. So a lot of guys go out and buy a 6-foot disc, and they got small 40, 50 horse tractors, and they think they're going to do a lot of changes to their ground. And those tools don't have enough power that you can break through the ground and get this kind of stuff out. So what you'll notice is that for land clearing, I'm pulling everything out at the root. That is true, but I'm not really wrecking my topsoil. I'm not ruining my ground. I'm just taking these things and getting them out of the way, so later on we can come in and move them around. So here's a tree that we're going to take out, and I kind of want to show you how it's done the best I can. Hopefully you guys can see this. Bottom line is you can do a couple different things. You can grab the tree and you can try to push the tree over by itself like this. And you can see it's not bending, and down here is the root. So what I like to do is grub it, and what you need to do is kind of like if you're using a skid steer, or not a skid steer, a excavator or backhoe, you want to get in here and start grubbing and digging out the sides of it. So I'm going to come over here on the sides and I'm going to start grubbing and try to break up some of the roots. So what you do is you grab and you flick it up as best you can. Do the same thing in the front. Get down, dig under it, flick it up. What we're going to try to do here is rip and break up the roots. So that'll make the nothing will be holding it down. So once you have some of that down, all you got to do is see if you can push the tree over, which is what I'm going to do right now. So the tree's coming out. We'll get up underneath it and give it a lip. Keep breaking them roots. You can push it down. You can grab it, drive into it and lift it like this. There you have a big old root. I actually got a couple trees, brush and root. Here's an example how you can use it to get a lot of the dirt off the bottom. Dirt's the biggest problem with these roots. Look at that. Got rid of all the dirt. The whole tree came out. And there's the tree, the root, and everything out of the way. We're just going to push this over because we're going to be pushing piles. I have piles everywhere. So let's go back and clean this other little section off. Tree over. Pretty good sized tree. Once you grub the roots out, it really doesn't take much, depending on the tree. If you got a deep rooted tree, it does take a little bit of effort, but some of these things are pretty shallow. This tree's going to be a little rougher, I think. So some guys use stump buckets, and this is kind of similar to what you would use a stump bucket for, but it's better than a stump bucket, even than a stump bucket with a grapple, in the sense that you can pull more out with it because of the angle of it. So once that thing starts coming, just grab it, pick it up. There's a pretty big root. But all this brush, all these piles, all the way up to the house, we made, and we cleared this whole area out. I'm going to be coming in here with the grapple. I'm going to push these piles all into a line, or close to a line, that you guys will actually get to see how much debris actually I pulled out with this. So I want to show you guys now what it's like after I showed you the piles. After I took a skid steer with my grapple, I pushed all those piles in. You know, there's piles up in front of this tree that you really can't see. It's probably over 200 foot long of piles. But what you can see here is how much brush we actually pulled out with that Danuser Intimidator. A lot. And it's thick. It's probably at least 10 foot wide and pretty tall. And a lot of material that's in there. And I'm going to come in and finish this off with the disc mower to clean it up. But this is just with the Danuser Intimidator. I did 3 days work of real work and made a huge difference. And this is what pays for when you start pulling. And you can look on the ground, you may have some sticks and stuff, but getting those roots out was huge. And the other thing that's huge is that we didn't really destroy our topsoil. So it looks good, it's manageable. And the next thing we would have to do now is just pretty much try to grade out the remaining bit of roots and get it tillable. But now the roots are up to the air. They're going to dry, they're going to die, and they're going to just start to decompose. And that's the most important thing of getting them exposed to air. So this is just a taste of what you can do with the Danuser Intimidator. And it really does a great job. And I highly recommend it. And if you never looked into it, I think you should. And if you guys have any questions, hit me up and I will be more than happy to answer them for you. But it's a wonderful tool and it's a good investment. And here's a shot of some of the piles that are actually north of the pine or south of the pine tree. And you can see it's just a huge amount of debris. I still need to go through this and clean up a little bit that's left here, some balls of brush, but for the most part everything has been cleaned off pretty well. And probably about 15 minutes or so I'll be done with this. But I'm pretty happy with it. I think it really did a nice job. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video on the Danuser Intimidator. I think it's a great machine. You can see how effective it is. And you know, I can't think of any tool out there that really can do as good of a job. You know, even if you have a little excavator, you still have to pluck at it. You know, that Danuser Intimidator gets right into it, pull these things right out. It's easy to manage, it's quick and efficient. And I think it's really a good tool to have in your arsenal. So with that said, thanks for watching guys, and I'll talk to you soon.